Chapter 2, that is Lost Spring by Anise Young. Lost Spring is about the stories of stolen childhood. Let's read about the author. The author is Anise Young, and she was born in 1964 in Rourkela and spent her childhood and adolescence in Hyderabad. She received her education in Hyderabad and in United States of America. She has been an editor and columnist for major newspapers in India and abroad and has authored several books. Young came into the limelight with the publication of Unveiling India in 1987, which is a travel diary focusing on interviews with women. She has written several subsequent books on the same, talking to women about their everyday lives, especially the Parda system amongst Muslim women. She generally talks about social evils underprivileged people's plight. The following is an excerpt from a book titled Lost Spring, Stories of Stolen Childhood, where she has focused on child labor. Significance of the title Child Labor. Spring is symbolic of joy, happiness, beauty, childhood. Childhood can be called the spring of one's life. Since few children don't enjoy the privileges of childhood that the children of affluent families enjoy, the author considers these children whose spring, that is childhood, has been lost. The story describes the pitiable condition of poor children who have been forced to become the victims of exploitation due to socio-economic conditions that prevails in this man-made world. These children are denied the opportunity of schooling and are made to work as laborers, becoming the partners in survival early in life. Children, you must have seen small children working on dhabas, factories, at several places, and they, instead of going to school, they work. At a tender age, when they need to go to school and enjoy the beauty of life, happiness of life, they are forced to work. This is child labor. You can see children working at various places. What is the central idea of the story, The Stolen Childhood? The central idea, theme, and message the story gives. The story Lost Spring analyzes the pitiable plight of street children and sensitizes to readers to step forward and save the spring of beautiful human life who have been denied of every opportunity. Thus, it mainly talks about the grinding poverty and traditions which condemn these children to a life of exploitation. Anise Young gives voice to eliminate child labor by educating the children and to enforce the laws against child labor by the governments strictly. The call is to end child exploitation and let the children enjoy the days of spring that bring joy under their feet. The story touches the reader and is thought-provoking. Introduction to the story. The author describes two of her encounters with children from deprived backgrounds. The first story is Sometimes I Find a Rupee in the Garbage. It is about Sabe Alam, a migrant from Bangladesh, a Rohingya Muslim who are seen in Delhi picking up garbage. And another is I Want to Drive a Car about Mukesh, a son of bangle maker from Firozabad. Both the stories talk about the child labor, a social evil which is a national shame. The main two protagonists of the chapter, Sabe Alam and Mukesh, don't live their childhood as they have to carry the burden of poverty and illiteracy. In their miserable stories of exploitation, the author provides glimpses of fortitude and resilience. Sahab and Mukesh, both are from the same slum background. If we compare the two, then Mukesh has a dream of becoming and doing something for which he is ready to take all the pains, whereas Sahab doesn't have a dream, just wants to lead a life where he is at least paid and fills his stomach and is satisfied with what he has. Here are the two stories, text and explanation. First story is I sometimes find a rupee in garbage. And second story is I want to drive a car. Today we'll have part 1 of this chapter, that is sometimes I find a rupee in the garbage. Let me read the text for you. This is the text. Why do you do this? I asked Sahab, whom I encounter every morning. So I is the narrator. She sees Sahab every morning, scrounging for gold in the garbage dumps of my neighborhood. What is scrounging? Scrounging is looking, searching. And gold is a metaphor here. It's not actual gold. Gold in the garbage means something precious in the garbage dumps of my neighborhood. Sahab left his home long ago, set amidst the green fields of Dhaka. His home is not even a distant memory. So gold in the garbage means something precious out of waste. Sahab is from Dhaka and his home is not even a distant memory. There were many storms that swept away their fields and homes. His mother tells him. That's why they left looking for gold in big city where he now lives. And nothing else to do, he mutters. Looking away, go to school, I say glibly, realizing immediately how hollow the advice must sound. So why did Sahab leave his home? Because of the storms. All the field, the green field, was swept away. There was nothing to eat. He couldn't fill his stomach. So they had to migrate from Bangladesh to India. And then narrator, when she sees these children for a long time, she tells them to go to school. But isn't that advice hollow? Why? Because every child cannot afford going to school. Everybody cannot go to school. There is no school in my neighborhood. When they build one, I'll go. This is what Sahab tells. If I start a school, will you come? I asked half joking. See the irony. The narrator knows that opening a school is not an easy job. But she tells, she's just checking how curious Sahab is for going to school. And Sahab, what does he reply? Yes, he says, smiling broadly. A few days later, I see him running up to me. Is your school ready? And narrator is embarrassed for making a false promise. You know, children, we are in habit of promising these poor people, these slum people. Every day, false, fake promises are made which are not meant to be kept. So she is embarrassed. It takes longer to build a school. I say embarrassed at having made a promise that was not meant. But promises like mine abound in every corner of his bleak world. After months of knowing him, I ask him his name. Sabe Alam, he announces. He does not know. He does not know what it means. If he knew its meaning, the Lord of universe, he would have a hard time believing it. So why would it be difficult for him to believe the meaning of his name? Because he is a slum child. He belongs from a poor family, where he is deprived of basic amenities of life. And what is his name? The Lord of universe. So he does not know what it means. If he knows its meaning, Lord of the universe, he would have a hard time believing it. Unaware of what his name represents, he roams the street with his friends, an army of barefoot boys who appear like the morning birds and disappear at noon. Over the months, I have to recognize each of them. Why aren't you wearing chappals? I asked. My mother did not bring them down from shelf. And children, when these poor people are helped, they are not ready to change their plight. They are not ready to take help many a times. Even if she did, he will throw them off, adds another who is wearing shoes that do not match. When I comment on it, he shuffles his feet and says, nothing. I want shoes, says a third boy who has never owned a pair of all his life. So traveling across the country, I have seen children walking barefoot in cities on village roads. It is not lack of money, but a tradition to stay barefoot is one explanation. I wonder if this is only an excuse to explain away a perpetual state of poverty. And children, many people, these poor people, they do not even want to change their plight. What explanation did they give for not wearing chappal? That it is simply to show that they are poor. I remember a story a man from Udupi once told me. As a young boy, he would go past an old temple where his father was a priest. He would stop briefly at the temple and pray for a pair of shoes. 30 years later, I visited his town and the temple, which was now drowned in an air of desolation. In the backyard where lived the new priest, there were red and white plastic chairs. A young boy dressed in grey uniform, wearing socks and shoes, arrived panting and throwing his bag on a folding bed. What is the significance of this story of Udupi? It provides an insight into poverty against the changing times of India. That 30 years back, these children did not have shoes to wear. They worship God to own a pair of shoes. But now, how people's priorities change along with the time. Shoes are now easily available for these priests' sons. Looking at the boy, I remember the prayer another boy had made to the goddess when he had finally got a pair of shoes. Let me never lose them. The goddess had granted his prayer. Young boys like son of the priest now wore shoes, but many others like the rag pickers in my neighborhood remained shoeless. So this means that however there is still a section of Indian society who are struggling with poverty on a daily basis. Their condition has not improved. They are the rag pickers. They still walk barefoot. So few people, like the son of priest, they have got the shoes. Their wish has been granted. But still there are children like Sabe Alam whose wish has not been granted. My acquaintance with the barefoot rag pickers leads me to Simapuri, a place on the periphery of Delhi, yet miles away from it, metaphorically. So, all these rag pickers, live in Simapuri. You must have heard the name Simapuri, which is on the periphery of Delhi. Periphery means outskirts. Now, it's no more an outskirt. It is inside Delhi, yet miles away from it, metaphorically. Means, though it is a part of Delhi, but there is no comfort. There is nothing like Delhi over there. No cleanliness, nothing. Those over here are the squatters from Bangladesh who came from Bangladesh back in 1971. Sahab's family is among them. Every day you must see several rag pickers and the maids who come to your house. They are Rohingya Muslims. They have migrated from Bangladesh because of the poverty. Poverty is one of the main reasons of migration. And the kind of life they lead in Simapuri is worst, is pathetic. Sahab's family is among them. Simapuri was a wilderness. It still is, but it's no longer empty. Here, a description of the grinding poverty and traditions of Sahab's life has been discussed here. Here in Simapuri, in structures of mud, with the roofs of tin and tarpaulin, devoid of sewage, drainage, or running water, lived 10,000 rag pickers. This article was written long back, so that time there were only 10,000 rag pickers. Now there would be lakhs, and they have lived here for more than 30 years without an identity, without permits, but with a ration card. And they have only a ration card which permits them, which makes them the Indian citizen, that get their names on voters list and enable them to buy grain. Sahab's life that condemned thousands of lives to people, a life of abject poverty. See the condition, how they pick the rag. Because food is more important for survival than an identity. Though nobody knows them. They are not known, not respected, not honored in the society. Yet, because of ration card, they get food. And food is more important for survival. If at the end of the day, we can feed our families and go to bed without an aching stomach, we would rather live here than in fields that give us no grain. Say a group of women in tattered saris. When I ask them why they left their beautiful land of green fields and rivers, wherever they find food, they pitch their tents that become their transit home. So, meaning of life in Simapuri is rag picking. And garbage to them is gold. Wherever they have garbage, they pitch their tents and make transit homes, means temporary homes. You must have seen slums. Children grow up in them, becoming partners in survival. And survival in Simapuri means rag picking. Children also pick rags. They also earn money. Through the years, it has acquired the portions of a fine art. Garbage to them is gold. It is their daily bread, a roof over their head, even if it's a leaking roof. So, even if the roof is leaking, they are happy to have the leaking roof. Because it brings them food and grain. I sometimes find a rupee, even a 10 rupee note, Sahab says, his eyes lighting up. When you can find a silver coin in a heap of garbage, you don't stop scrounging, for there is a hope of finding more. Children has different meaning of garbage. For elder, it's a means of survival, but for children, it's wrapped in wonders of getting something more. It seems that for children, garbage has a meaning different from what it means to their parents. For children, it is wrapped in wonders. For the elders, it's a means of survival. One winter morning, I see Sahab standing by the fenced gate of the neighborhood club, watching two young men dressed in white playing tennis. I like the game, he hums, content to watch it standing behind the fence. I go inside when no one is around, he admits. That gatekeeper lets them use the swing. So here the author, tries to bring out the contrast. The tennis is out of their reach. Enough mature to accept the fact. Here Sahab tells that he admits that gatekeeper lets them enter when the gatekeeper lets them enter and use the swing. He is satisfied with what they get. Rather, he is happy and obliged when he is allowed to swing. Sahab too is wearing a tennis shoes that look strange over his discolored shirt and shorts. Someone gave them to me, he says in a manner of an explanation. The fact that they are discarded shoes of some rich boy who perhaps refused to wear them because of a hole in one of them does not bother him. For one who has walked barefoot, even shoes with a hole is a dream come true. But the game he is watching so intently is out of his reach. So plight of poor children like Sahib is satisfied with discarded things thrown by rich people. Such children do not dream very high. They have limitations of their dream. See, and at last, This morning, Sahab is on his way to milk booth. In his hand is a steel canister. I now work in a tea stall. Down the road, he says, pointing in the distance. I am paid 800 rupees and all my meals. Does he like the job? I ask. His face, I see, has lost the carefree look. The steel canister seems heavier than the plastic bag he would carry so lightly over his shoulder. The bag was his. The canister belongs to the man who owns the tea shop. Sahab is no longer his own master. So, see how much food is important. But what did we find in this story? Do you think Sahab is happy working at the tea stall? He might not be happy because it's written that that his face has lost the carefree look. The steel canister seems heavier than the plastic bag he would carry so lightly. The canister belongs to the man who owns the tea shop, but and Sahab is no longer his own master. So maybe Sahab is not happy working at the tea stall because he took up the job of a helper at a tea stall. He has lost his carefree look. He was paid 800 rupees and given all his meals. Yet the job is not his own. But at the same time, you can say, yes, he is happy. He has lost his carefree, though he has lost his carefree look, but at least he is getting all his meals and 800 rupees. So, children, always frame your views on your comprehension. These children start to support their family financially from the age they start to work. This phase of their life is when they must see beautiful dreams, but they are beaten so fiercely for not doing their work to the extent where our imagination can't reach. So, what figure of speech have we used in this story? Simapuri, a place in the periphery of Delhi. Simapuri is geographically close to Delhi. It's an outskirts nearby, but in traditions, its standard of life and people are away from Delhi. Paradox. A paradox is a statement or concept that contains conflicting ideas. In logic, a paradox is a statement that contradicts itself, like poverty of Sahib and richness of the tennis club. Hyperbole. It's a way of speaking or writing that makes something sound better or more exciting than it really is. Like exaggerating the things. Example is, for example, garbage to them is gold. So fine, garbage is precious, but comparing it with gold is exaggeration. Irony. Name of Sabi Alam. And actually, Sabi Alam is actually a rag picker, but his name is the Lord of Universe. Now here comes the glossary word meaning. Scrounging, searching for, amidst, in the middle, mutters, to speak in a low voice, glibly, speaking or spoken in a confident way, but without careful thought or honesty. Hollow, meaningless, embarrassed, feeling ashamed when author promised her to open the school. Abound, exist in large number. So promises abound in their life. Everybody promise, but nobody cares. Bleak, empty. He would have hard time believing it. What? The meaning of his name. It would be difficult for him to believe that his name meant Lord of Universe. Barefoot, wearing nothing in the feet. Shuffles, slides them over each other, shake. The boy is so happy with that shoes with a hole that he is shuffling his feet side to side. Excuse, a reason to justify fault. Perpetual state of poverty, never-ending condition of being poor. These people, they do not want to come out of their pathetic state. Desolation, the state of being empty. Panting, taking short and quick breaths. Acquaintance, contact, knowing. Periphery, outer area. Metaphorically, symbolically. Squatters, a person who unlawfully occupies an uninhabited building or unused land. Like these are the squatters. Sabe Alam and people like Sabe Alam are the squatters from Bangladesh who have come here as migrators. Wilderness, a wasteland. Tarpaulin, waterproof cloth with which they make their tents. Permit, legal document. Tattered, the women wear tattered sari, torn. Transit homes, a temporary home. Lighting up, show joy and happiness. Content, satisfied. Discarded, thrown away. Bother, worry. So after glossary, these are the two questions. RTC, you have to answer only in one line. There were many storms that swept away their fields and homes. His mother tells him, who is Sahab? Where has he come from? What made him leave his home? Where does he live now? Garbage to them is gold. It is their daily bread, a roof over their heads, even if it's a leaking roof. Who are them here? How important is garbage for them? What meaning does garbage hold for children? What literary device has been used in the line garbage to them is gold? That's all for today, children. Thank you. Again, in next class, I'll come with the next story. I want to drive a car. Till then, goodbye. Stay safe, stay healthy. Read the chapter beforehand, which will make it easier for you to understand.